the 10 richest crime organizations in the world. Drugs, sex, crime. All around the world, there are entities that cater to humanity's most illicit desires, preying on the weak and innocent while operating outside the rule of law for the sake of financial gain. Over time, many of these groups have grown from petty street-level gangs into powerful, unstoppable empires that effectively run entire states or even countries. What follows is a handful of such crime organizations. These are members of the criminal underworld that went from operating in the shadows to gaining global recognition for their size, their ruthlessness, and their immense fortunes. These are the 10 richest crime organizations in the world. Medellin Cartel. It's difficult to talk about organized crime without mentioning the cocaine king himself, Pablo Escobar. Also known as El Diablo, Escobar is responsible for founding the Medellin Cartel in 1976. Named after the Colombian city it called home, the Medellin Cartel smuggled powder from Peru, Bolivia, and Ecuador to its base of operations before slowly infiltrating the United States. By the time the 1980s rolled around, Pablo and his Medellin Cartel oversaw shipments of between 70 and 80 tons of cocaine into the US every month. That's a lot of coke. Cocaine became a billion-dollar industry as a result, and Medellin was responsible for 80% of it. The Medellin Cartel was making $420 million every week at one point, leading to Escobar being featured on Forbes' list of international billionaires 7 years in a row. Understandably, this put a target on the cartel's back. Bloody, violent fights with rival cartels both in Colombia and elsewhere became more and more common, all the way up until Pablo Escobar's demise at the hands of Colombian special forces in December 1993. At the time of his death, Pablo Escobar's empire was worth roughly $30 billion. Today, that's over $65 billion. Without its leader, the Medellin Cartel collapsed. Cali Cartel. One of the Medellin Cartel's most prominent rivals was another Colombia-based cocaine trafficking empire called the Cali Cartel. Founded by the Orihuela brothers and Jose Santa Cruz Londonot in the early 1970s, the Cali Cartel started out as a kidnapping and counterfeiting outfit. They then used the money from those operations, including a reported $700,000 ransom for 2 Swiss citizens, to fund the beginnings of the drug smuggling ring they would come to be known for. After initially working together with the Medellin Cartel to create a Colombian drug presence in the United States, the Cali Cartel quickly switched gears to initiate vicious turf wars and all-out attacks on Escobar's empire. After his death, Cali took over 80% of the cocaine industry and upped its game, even further extending their operations into Europe and generating more than $5 billion per year. At its peak in the mid to late 90s, DA Chief Thomas Constantine called the Cali Cartel the biggest, most powerful crime syndicate we've ever known. Russian Bratva. The Russian Bratva, more commonly known as the Russian Mafia, is one of the largest and oldest crime organizations in the world. Its origins can be traced back to the 1700s, when bandits and thieves formed the Vorovsky Mir, or Thieves' World, in Russia's imperial period. The organization grew and thrived through the Bolshevik Revolution, World War II, the rise and fall of the Soviet Union, and the Russian Civil War that followed. Given its prevalence throughout history, it's no wonder that the Russian Mafia villain stereotype has become so common. Today, the Russian Mafia is a vast network of roughly 5,000 criminal groups, although it's believed that only 300 or so are actually organized. Those that are organized follow the traditional thieves' code set in place back in the 1700s, called Vori v Zakon. Within Russia, the United States, and elsewhere around the world, the arms of the Russian Mafia are responsible for extortion, theft, cybercrime, human trafficking, money laundering, murder, drugs, the list goes on and on. Essentially, whatever illegal activity can generate some kind of revenue, the Russian Mafia probably has its hands in it. Exact numbers are incalculable due to the nature of the Russian Mafia, but an estimate from Fortune magazine pegs the Bratva's annual revenue at $8.5 billion. Apparently, that was more than enough to land them the Guinness World Record for largest criminal organization back in 2014. Hells Angels. While the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club presents itself as a group of Harley-Davidson-loving motorcyclists, the widespread involvement of its members in illicit crime and brutal violence reveals it to be more than that. In the opinion of the DOJ, the Canadian Criminal Intelligence Service, the Australian Federal Police, Europol, and other criminal investigating agencies, Hells Angels is considered an organized crime syndicate and the largest outlaw motorcycle club in the world. The biker gang's origins can be traced back to 1948 California, when a World War II veteran by the name of Otto Friedli split off from the Pissed Off Bastards Motorcycle Club to form Hells Angels. Since then, the club has grown to include 6,000 members across more than 50 countries and has become heavily associated with the production and distribution of meth in America and abroad. That, along with their prostitution, gun-running, theft, and extortion operations, it's believed that Hells Angels rakes in roughly $1 billion per year. Triads. In the 18th and 19th centuries, secret societies formed within China with the intent of eliminating and overthrowing the Qing dynasty. Those secret societies developed into shadowy groups that specialized in political assassinations, intimidation, and other activities that could influence the ruling class of China. As their organizations and influence were suppressed over the centuries, the societies evolved into highly capable, highly organized crime syndicates known as triads. While they are primarily based in Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, and China, triads have now spread to majority Chinese communities around the world, including Canada, the US, Australia, and parts of Europe. Regardless of where they operate, triads are known for their ability to adapt and survive, expanding their skill sets and offerings as necessary. They started hundreds of years ago with assassinations, but today they are involved with the drug trade, money laundering, human trafficking, counterfeiting, cybercrime, and protection rackets. Because their operations are so diverse, their numbers are so immense, and their worldwide presence, it is believed that as a whole, triads generate hundreds of billions of dollars every year. The book Organized Crime from Trafficking to Terrorism estimates that the triad's annual profit on narcotics alone is in the range of $200 billion, while human trafficking is roughly $3.5 billion. Los Zetas. While there are plenty of brutally violent drug cartels around the world, few of them come close to the level of indiscriminate bloodlust of Mexico's Los Zetas. Torture, beheadings, and outright slaughter are all common occurrences for the Zetas, which is known to dump its victims in mass graves like human refuse. Los Zetas' penchant for violence stems from its foundational purpose. The cartel was founded in the late 90s as Muscle for the Gulf Cartel and was made up of deserters of the Mexican Special Forces who had been recruited with the promise of a higher salary than the military was paying them. Because of the skills and training of its members, Los Zetas quickly earned a reputation for the surgical precision of the violence it committed. It even used its over-the-top cruelty and brutality to intimidate rival gangs and dissuade them from interfering in their business. Some might even say that they terrorize those who stand against them, law enforcement and rivals alike. While it engages in a mixture of extortion, protection rackets, and kidnappings among other things, Los Zetas' primary income was drug sales, which reached approximately $350 million at its peak. It also reportedly had cash reserves of roughly $50 million, although those numbers are less clear now as the cartel has been splintered by government crackdowns. Cosa Nostra. Cosa Nostra, also known as the Sicilian Mafia, is one of the most prolific crime organizations in the world. Founded in Sicily sometime in the mid-19th century, Cosa Nostra is known for its structure and strict code just as much as its activities. Groups within the mafia are known as families, or cosca, each of which is led by a capo captain, supervised by consigliere advisors, and operated by soldati soldiers. The code of Cosa Nostra forbids some of the activities that other organized crime entities thrive on, for instance, theft and kidnapping. The mafia makes most of its money in loan sharking and protection rackets, but is also known for committing murder, smuggling all types of goods, and intimidation. The amount of money Cosa Nostra generates through its activities is relatively unknown, but the FBI estimates that Italian organized crime as a whole is worth in the ballpark of $100 billion annually, and Cosa Nostra plays a large part in that. Sinaloa Cartel. Mexico's Sinaloa Cartel began in the city of Culiacan around 1987 and has since grown into an international syndicate recognized for its strength and capacity for violence. The origins of the Sinaloa Cartel go back even further to the 1960s, when Pedro Avalos Perez began smuggling marijuana from Sinaloa into the United States. He even amplified his drug smuggling capabilities by using aircraft to transport the goods, which became the base of the cartel's large-scale operations. As the Sinaloa Cartel progressed into the 90s and early 2000s, it was led into bloody aggressive expansion through the leadership of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman and Ismael El Mayo Zambada. Whether they faced the Mexican government or rival cartels, Sinaloa showed no mercy. El Chapo alone is considered to be responsible for a body count of no less than 34,000 people. The Sinaloa Cartel has made a fortune on the piles of corpses it leaves behind, amassing an annual revenue that is estimated to be between $3 and $39 billion. Yamaguchi Gumi. Like the triads of China, the Yakuza is a collection of organized crime syndicates that have their origins in Japan, but have since spread their influence to other countries. The largest of the more than 3,000 Yakuza clans, and the richest of them all, is the Yamaguchi Gumi. Named after its founder Harukichi Yamaguchi, the Yamaguchi Gumi is headquartered in Kobe and is 7,400 members strong. It carries out illicit activity all over the criminal spectrum to fund its operations, dabbling in everything from gambling to prostitution, arms and drug trafficking, extortion, and even real estate. Unlike the often barbaric nature of other syndicates around the world, the Yamaguchi Gumi and the Yakuza in general are almost disturbingly businesslike. They own office buildings, hand out business cards, and operate in broad daylight. Of course, Yakuza are also known for running various legitimate businesses in addition to their illegal activities, which would benefit from a positive public persona. In addition to being the largest Yakuza clan, the Yamaguchi Gumi is also the most financially profitable, with a yearly net revenue that has been estimated at roughly $80 billion by Fortune magazine. Ndragantha. When it comes to the Calabrian Peninsula, the Ndragantha rule with an iron fist. The mafia-style criminal organization has been in operation just as long as La Cosa Nostra, but it was deemed a mafia far more recently thanks to changes in Italian law that went into effect in 2010. The Calabrian Mafia made a splash in the 80s and 90s with a series of kidnappings they carried out across Italy, followed by the public murder of 6 Italians in broad daylight, one of which was just 16 years old. Through violent gang wars and global expansion of individual groups, or Ndrinas, the Ndragantha has become involved in legal activities like construction and waste management, along with the expected criminal activity of extortion, money laundering, high-level corruption, and human trafficking, as well as the drug trade. Altogether, it is believed that the Ndragantha generates as much as $60 billion per year across its many operations, making it easily one of the richest crime organizations in the world.